All right. I'm sure we'll have a few more people joining as we go. Harold's going to join
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yep.
But we could start. Do you want to start? Or start on time?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Do you have the agenda with you, Paula? Because
I do.
I don't
You
think I have
probably
it.
didn't have time to grab it. Let me.
Yeah, I was arguing with the taxi driver just 10 minutes ago about whether or not to accept cash payments and things like that.
You didn't accept cash. Oh.
Oh, yeah, well, he accepted bank cards, but there was some confusion about what kind of bank card, so we got into an argument. As I always have with taxi drivers.
Yeah. So for this call, we invited all existing investors in Agility Scales to come. We wanted to sort of do a sum up. We've done progress reports throughout the year, but we thought it would be good to just do a summary and look at how far we've come with the investments that they made. So that was sort of number one. Number two was future roadmap and metrics, talk about these adjustments that we're going to do going forward, hopefully to be more agile ourselves and more iterative. Obviously questions, I put questions for, but really, if we have a small group, it'd be great if anybody asks questions as we go. I think that's fine. It makes it more interesting, less of a lecture. And at the end, crowdfunding, I wanted to put out an ask to investors too, not necessarily to invest more, but just to help us expand our reach for crowdfunding. And I have a few ideas on simple things they could do. So that's what I wanted to cover. Now, any investors on the call, Robbie, Paul, if there's anything, is there anything you want us to cover that's not on this list? Maybe you could put it in chat or just unmute and let us know.
Okay.
We'll get it on the list if there's anything else that needs to be on there.
Yep. I'll make sure to open the chat window as well so I see what's happening. Okay, so progress report. What happened past year? Now I'm pretty sure Paula and Harold, you can help me out with that one. I know for sure a number of things that we did, mainly, of course, experiments that we have been running in terms of features and direction. At the beginning of the year, I had the insight that we had been focusing only on content until that time, and that is one part of the value wheel. You see just the top part of that in the document that Paula is sharing now. Yeah.
Yes.
The find ideas part, helping people to browse for content, taking steps. That was what we did for sure. We had functionality there, but I came to the insight that we needed to know more about what people were doing, what they were what they were busy with throughout the day. So that's how we came up with tracking value, and we've been experimenting with that for a while, building some features around that. And sharing our learnings, responding to each other, stuff like that. So basically trying to complete the whole value wheel. We now have basic functionality in place everywhere around the wheel because we feel it's like a flywheel. There has to be something everywhere for things to work. But now we focus back on finding ideas for the next few months, because that's where the main need is at this point, to make it easier for users to find stuff. There's so much good stuff that we're sharing, is what we hear from our users. It's just hard to find things, so that's definitely top of mind, is the highest priority. But at the same time, as I said, the other parts of the wheel, they now have basic functionality, but they definitely need to be improved. So that will be next after improving the find ideas part. So basically, it's flying around the wheel what we have been doing in the last year or so. Is there anything specific that I forgot to mention, Paula, that you want to point out?
Yeah, I think if I think back to last December 2017, January, we had a lot of actionable ideas, guides in the app, people weren't really ticking off the steps as they went. And then this idea of we need a platform that really has the agile improvement cycle. We support people through everything, not just finding ideas. That's how we expand it out. And I do have down here, some of the key milestones that we put down in our investor pitch deck. And this is really for existing investors too, to see. Sorry, it's a bit small. Let's see if I can zoom in a little. We did a whole design overhaul. Oh wow, my computer's slow. Let me pull back out. Here's the milestones, Jürgen, some of the ones we said too. I mean, all of them relate to that compass, this idea that we're gonna create this virtuous cycle in the app, and what we had wasn't enough. So we had to.
Exactly. Yeah, so indeed, this is a good reminder. I forgot about the design overhaul that we did, because it was, as I called it, ugly Kermit Green a year ago.
Yeah.
And we hired some professionals to help us out with improving the look and feel. So that certainly helped, being more professional. More professionally looking. I discussed the value tracking. That was a core component that we added. Still plenty to improve there, but the basic idea is something that we believe in. We need some way for people to give us input on what they're doing. Content expansion, of course, that is on our mind all the time. What I haven't pointed out is another major component is the tracks and the journeys that we have been adding. That's like a couple of months ago. That was the big thing that we worked on. Because with all the content that we were building up, we wanted to give people the opportunity to set challenges for themselves and for others. Like you become the basic management theory practitioner if you do these practices at least once with your team, or you can become a master in retrospectives if you do these retro exercises, all 10 of them, with your team. Things like that. And that should be in a peer-to-peer fashion. We want anyone to be able to create the challenge for themselves and for others. Like I created a challenge for myself just to be more disciplined in the things that I do on a daily basis. So I created my own daily work-life challenge: do 100 times the following 5 things, or something like that. And that's fun. It feels satisfying to complete such a challenge, such a journey. I completed one today that I had been working on for a couple of months. And that is something that is yet another component of the whole platform. The first sign, basically, of the gamification that we're going to build up over time. Give yourself a badge for doing a good job, and give others a badge for doing a good job. And you can imagine that in the long run, these could become official badges or even certificates that people could give each other for something that is really significant that they have completed. But as I said, in a peer-to-peer fashion, anyone should be able to give someone else a certificate for a job well done. So that's another core component we've been working on.
Yeah, I think maybe Paula, if I could just mention tags. I mean, you have it there. I don't know whether people always know what it is. It seems like a technical term, but so we've started all along to give all our content tags, including also things that like the marks that users create. But we've now gone and used the tags as a capability to connect users with content on the basis of tags. So I think that's something, maybe that's not so easily visible when you look at the app, but it's a very significant thing that we've implemented in the last year. And in the latest releases, you can actually see how it came to fruition in that you can now select content by tags. So we've built a very powerful engine, and now you can actually see what the engine is doing. I think that's pretty
exactly, yeah. So the tagging is basically fundamental architectural solution, of course. Many platforms have a tagging mechanism, so it's obvious that we had needed one as well. And that allows people to not only search for tags and use those for their own discovery, but also on the website we connect things together across methods and frameworks and everything, so you can use tags to go from one place to the other in the app as well. That allows people to discover much more, which is the whole idea of having everything in one platform, because we want to be method and framework agnostic. There's good stuff in many different places. The tagging of content would allow people to navigate and explore the whole world based on their favorite topics.
Good. And Ian, our product owner, calls that the beginnings of turning content into wisdom. Trying to really, that'll enable recommendations, that'll enable so much in terms of getting to those great ideas that then we want you to use in adventures and marking.
Exactly, yeah. So value tracking, tracks and journeys, tagging, all of these are fundamental pieces of the entire puzzle, of the entire platform that need to be in place before things can start building up. But I think we're now nearing a completion of the fundamental pieces that need to be in place, and now it is a matter of improving everything and making it work better.
Yes. So I'll move on. Let's move on to that, sort of the next phase. But this document that I'm showing right now, this is one we've created for investors, and I'll share a link afterwards. I'll send you all the link. I'll put it in the chat afterwards. I don't want to send it now because then I'll distract you. But this will give out to all investors so you have these details. And one piece that we probably won't discuss right now, we did, there was a roadmap that we gave all of our investors last December, January. So this document goes through, it looks at what we achieved. It also looks at what we had intended to achieve. A lot of that still is valid. So there's a little chart here that goes through the different areas and the pieces that we've built. It's not necessarily the features that we had thought we would build, but have a look through that. I would say the only thing worth mentioning, of course, we thought we were going to build iOS before now, but we haven't. And there's a little more to do connecting authors and players, right? We're not really scaling yet. Those are sort of the main things that didn't happen.
Yep.
So we just want to acknowledge not everything happened.
Yep.
So, and then the next thing then here, this is our current roadmap. And maybe, Jürgen, you want to explain sort of the shorter time period, a little bit on agile crowdfunding and what we're looking at here. You mentioned it right at the beginning, but we can...
Yeah, so agile crowdfunding is not on the product roadmap. I think.
No, I just mean it's a much shorter window. That previous product roadmap we had was sort of like a year view.
Okay.
That was a much longer future vision, whereas we're like, no, we're going to go more agile now with these.
Yes. Yeah. So in my conversations with many startups around the world, which I did as part of my book project, I learned so much last year. I noticed the tendency of the startup world also to move towards more agile approaches of funding. Actually, there's another article I just saw yesterday. Continuous funding is going to be the thing in the future, and I totally agree with that.
Oh, okay.
It's like continuous delivery with software. You should be able to fund at any point and not have these 1 year or 18-month runways where you collect a lot of funds in one month and then spend 18 months spending it all, and then you do another big round. That is a bit traditional. We wanted more agile, so we thought, okay, let's switch to quarterly targets. Because target setting is always good. I mean, people like OKRs, objectives, key results, for a reason. It's always good to set yourself a target and try to achieve that target and evaluate yourself at the end of those 3 months. So that's what we will be doing on a quarterly basis, set ourselves some goals, and also determine how much funding we would need for the next 3 months, and set that as a target, short runways. But from a legal perspective, we will basically have continuous funding. Anyone can invest at any moment in time, because that is how the legal structure that we have in place is already operating. So it makes us very flexible. We can simply open and close the door at any moment of our choosing, depending on how much we would need and depending on how well things are going. So, for example, if a large investor would at some point move in and say, hey, here's €250,000, okay, then we could close the door the very next day. Say, okay, well, the crowd will have to wait for 3 months because we're going to spend this first. So these things would make us very, very flexible and not depend on just one source, which is a very agile approach to funding, of course. Be able to tap into multiple sources simultaneously.
Good. So this roadmap too is sort of a 3-month window that we're looking at when you look at the items on here. And finding ideas, you'd mentioned that, Jürgen, we're going to focus on that area because we think if we optimize that first, that's going to deliver quite a lot of value to the players, our initial players, the Agile coaches and Scrum Masters. Optimizing every component isn't possible. So let's focus on this one because we think that'll be enough for them to want to pay and for us to increase usage and just signups.
Exactly, yes. It's the obvious feedback that we got from our current users is that we had to make that better first. We totally agree there. It was the easiest win to make things better discoverable. But the real opportunities with our platform, we would achieve those with other features, and they would come later.
Yep.
I hear some noise from someone, by the way.
I do, and I don't see anyone unmuted.
Okay.
Oh wait, maybe here we go. I think I found it.
Okay.
Samsung Galaxy, I've just muted you. Hope you don't mind. You can still hear us. Great. So yeah, we're looking at high-level components. We're going to be doing some work on teams, a lot of work on how to optimize finding ideas. So all that great content that's in there, people can find. Share learnings is the other part. We have a prototype of our web-based authoring interface, so people can, if they've done something or iterated, they can actually share that back to the community.
Right. That's one thing that I am looking for most, because I am personally rarely browsing for ideas. I want to share stuff all the time. I mean, that's the nature of my personality, I suppose. I have ideas all the time. I see the need in our platform, in our app, to make it much easier to share practices, to create tracks, to set challenges for each other. I want an easier way to set challenges for my team and tell them, I want you to do this for 10 times in a row over the next 10 weeks or whatever, and I'll give you a badge when you've done that. Create some fun tracks for ourselves to prove that things are working. That's what I'm looking for mostly. Yep. So that's the second most important thing after finding ideas. Basically comes share learnings and
share learnings. And then you also mentioned teams, and that's in there too, so that you can collaborate. So
yeah. Yep. Yeah, teams is a base. That's basically another infrastructural or architectural thing that we missed, because we had lots of things in place, but the team concept obviously is something that we need with coaches and consultants. We hadn't had time to build that yet, so that's an obvious candidate to finally get done.
Absolutely, looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And then so this is all background that you'll receive, and you can look through it. But I wanted to, and I'll zoom back out a little. I wanted to look at the metrics because we have a 3-month roadmap. And Harald, Jürgen, do you guys want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing new? Instead of just email investor updates, what we'll be doing with metrics?
Well, I was very inspired by articles of other startups and bigger, more famous companies that have achieved great success with just transparency about what's happening, whether good things are happening or bad things are happening. Just make no secrets about it. Share what you've learned. Everyone appreciates that. It creates trust. It increases credibility. People like you even when you failed. And I said to the team, that's what I want. I want us to be open and transparent about happening. Some things work great, other things suck. That's life. And let's pick some metrics that we want to focus on for the next 3 months and be public about it. So that's even more of an incentive to ourselves to try and improve those numbers, because we're going to show the results to the wide world.
Yes.
And the ones that we picked are that's of course very important, is to pick the right ones, and the ones that are crucial in our current phase is the product working for the users that we have. So, for example, a question that we always get is, how many users or how many players do you have? That is not the right question for our current phase, because we are in exploration. We are not scaling up. The number of users is an interesting metric when you're scaling up, but we're not scaling right now. We're trying to make a product that works. So we have to measure if the product works. That means with the current user that we have, how much are they actually using the product, and how many people are giving up, basically. So that is what these metrics are about. It is about monthly churn, conversion rates, percentage of active paying users, etc. That is what we're focusing on. And once these numbers are getting better, this is called activation and retention in growth marketing terms, growth hacking terms. And then later we will focus on increasing numbers of users. But that's what we decided on. Am I missing something, Harold? Something crucial? Because you know more about the metrics than I do.
No, I think you've mentioned them all. Just maybe to explain the color code there. Basically, we have 3 areas that we're exploring here. The green is the more like business-oriented metrics. The yellow is usage, and you pointed out a number of times that that's key at this moment. But then also, since we're a two-sided platform, it's of course also important to provide content, and that's the kind of purplish color at the bottom. So we kind of have these 3 areas that cover what is relevant to us from both sides of the platform and overall. So that's why you see this distinction there.
Yeah, and there's a Google spreadsheet that we've made public. The link's in this document, which you'll be emailed right after this. So you can go and explore, and each one of these has an explanation against them. So this is all supporting that roadmap too, that we should be seeing these numbers improve as we move along and deliver more of these components. Yeah. We should be seeing increased usage and people starting to just really love this product. Yeah, okay, so I think I'm going to stop sharing just for a minute, and let's see if there's any questions from people. If you have questions, everyone's on mute, but if you want to unmute yourself, you can. Anybody have questions? Put you on the spot. Nothing big come to. Okay, well, interrupt me. Oh, do we have?
While we're waiting for questions, maybe I can explain the current phase a bit better. It is called looking for product market fit, or searching product market fit. That is the most difficult phase according to all the experts. It is making a product that works for the market that you have selected. And this is pure exploration. It is basically impossible to predict how soon you find it, because you're trying to invent something new, which makes it so difficult. And you can compare it, as I often say, by finding the exit of the forest. You have no idea how big the forest is. So you cannot plan your way out of the forest because you have absolutely no clue. It could be behind the next tree, but it could also be kilometers away from you, and you'll be walking around for a long time. So that is pure exploration. I do know from my conversation with the experts that on average, they say it takes about 3 years for a startup to find product market fit from the moment the startup is launched to the moment the product really works, high retention, low churn, high activation. That's 3 years. And that is much more than I originally thought, which is why in the past, like a year ago, we were far too optimistic about what we could do with the money that we then collected from investors, and we were far too optimistic with our iOS promises, etc. And then later turned out, actually, that's going to take much longer, your search for product market fit. This is what all the experts have said. So 3 years is about the average. And then on top of that, the business model that we've chosen is what you could call a blue ocean strategy business model. We're trying something that nobody else has done before. Like if you create another dating app, well, you know there are a couple of other dating apps in the world, so you pretty much know the kind of things that you need to do to make it work. If you could choose a different niche or whatever, but basically the path is pretty much established. With us, we don't even know, we still not have seen real competitors after a year and a half. So that makes it a blue ocean strategy, not a red ocean strategy. There's nothing else out there. Those have even longer project market fit periods. So hopefully not going to take that long, but we are in it for the long haul. That's for sure. We're searching, we're doing our best, but don't expect us to have the solution next month. There's plenty of more of experimentation to do. And that also means, and that's what we've learned, anything that does not contribute to searching and exploring has to be postponed. And that is the reason why developing for other platforms, iOS, etc., we postpone that. Also, we try not to duplicate features on web and on app. Every time we say we either make this on the app side or you make it on the website, but not on both places, because that's duplication of effort. You should not do that while you're exploring. You can do that later when you're executing a business model that you have validated. So yeah, that's I think important to explain.
Yep. And Jürgen, I see we have a question from Javier. Are you guys using design sprints?
You should ask the product people, I suppose, because I'm not involved in the weekly creation of the planning of features and experimentation. I am more of the CEO kind of person, the figurehead,
well,
financial person.
I mean, I'm a stakeholder. Harold and I are stakeholders and contributors to the beginning of the design.
Exactly.
The
so
product development process. I would say it's more of a continuous delivery cycle that we have. We do have maybe 2-3 month goals. We have our goals. We sort of do our OKRs. We had Agile 2018 as a big goal, and we work towards that. Internally, we've got, they're releasing stuff every once or twice a week to us internally, and then we'll have an app release or a web release once or twice a week. We're probably doing retrospectives, if you look at it from that perspective, monthly.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a design sprint in the term as the books suggest that we do it, because the team is not organized like that. We have a web and app people, and then there's 2 people on the UX side who are involved in both. We have multiple releases per week of both app and web, so that is pretty agile. But it's more like a continuous flow of stuff. Some things are being designed for a couple of weeks because it is quite complicated. Other things take just a day or 2 to design because they're small things. But everything is a continuous flow. as far as I can see from my perspective. But I'm helicoptering around, and as I said, I don't know the day-to-day details.
Yeah, that's true. I probably was a little off. I wasn't specific to the design sprint, was I? But Javier, I'll get Ian to answer your question.
Yeah.
Ian can describe it. Any other questions? I don't see any. So I wanted to. So I'll move on a little. I've just shared a link in the chat with you that's to the document that I was screen sharing earlier. And on the last page of that, I think you all know that we're starting our next crowdfunding round. We emailed you on the 1st of November just to give you the details of what's happening there. And we wanted just to ask too for your support. If you want to invest more, we're very happy for you to do that. But also we'd love it if if you're using our Mindsettlers app, or if you've seen what you're doing with the company and you have something, if you would endorse us or give us a testimonial, that would be very valuable. And if you would just, if you see posts that we put out there on social media, if you would share those out, that would be very helpful to us just to get the word out further. The last two down there, obviously, if you have people you think would be interested in our company, please connect us with them. And critique, you've invested money. We want your critiques. We want you to assess what we're doing and tell us what you think. So yeah, I just wanted to put a call to action out there. If you have the inclination, we would appreciate your support in any of these ways. We want to get this crowdfunding round, done really efficiently and quickly, so we can get the full team back to making these improvements and delivering on those metrics.
Yeah, and I would like to explain one or two things about the crowdfunding itself. We have decided to stick to the same valuation as a year ago because we believe we have not deserved the right to increase the valuation because we're still in product market fit. We made progress for sure, but not enough, in my opinion, to increase valuation at this point. So we stick to that. Otherwise, we have too much explaining to do. Also, we have there's no dilution of existing shareholders, which is because we have still unsold shares in the foundation that owns the shares on behalf of the crowd. So you have this foundation, which is called a special purpose vehicle in legal financial terms, that owns shares in the company, and the foundation issues certificates to the crowd and then votes on behalf of the crowd and manages the shares on behalf of the crowd, so that the company actually has one shareholder, which is the foundation. Well, the foundation has still unsold shares, the same ones that we used in the previous round. A year ago. There's still plenty unsold, so we tap in that same pool. That means that there's no dilution of everyone else who had already invested before. That makes it pretty much a no-brainer for anyone who says, well, I have something lying around, I have some cash, I might want to increase my stake. You should do that now, because the pool is going to run out at some point in 2019, I can tell you, and then we will have to tap into other sources or
issue more shares or
something. Issuing new shares, etc., etc.
Okay, good. And this is the page with all the resources for you to access whenever you want. This went out to you November 1st as well, so have a look through there too. I think that's it. That was
Any
what
other
we
questions based on
wanted
this?
to convey.
I see no questions at this point.
I will just join the conversation. Hi, guys.
Okay. Hi.
I have just one question. I'm not up to date regarding the fundamental question. Are you going in the future to somehow provide initial benefits for the content creators? Because at the beginning, I remember that the content was just generated so that the authors can simply build their be perceived as experts, and that will end with leads and people interested in the consulting services, for example, regarding agile coaching and other training services. But do you have anything regarding the features or maybe the business model to somehow provide additional value to the content creators, both regarding the financial benefits or any other benefits?
Yeah, very good question. So the thinking here is, first we have to prove that the product works for the users, because as long as the product does not work well enough for users, it makes no sense to pay content creators part of the income, because there hardly is any. So that is our main focus for now. Make the product work. That is the product market fit that we're talking about, based on the simple subscription model that we have. It is the same as in the past. Spotify started with just a subscription model. Make first that app work for the ones who consume the content. Only then, if you have people who are enthusiastic about the content, then you go to the content creators and say, look, we have people raving about our product. If you create more content, we're going to try and attract you by paying you part of those subscription fees. That is definitely on our minds. I have no idea what percentage or how that's going to work, but I can guarantee you, once we have enthusiastic users who want to make sure of, who want to make use of tracks and practices and everything, then we want more stuff in our system, more content. Then we want to pull people away from writing blog posts on Medium to offering practices on Mindsetters. And one way to do that is by paying them. That is an obvious conclusion. But it all starts with product market fit first, and then we can tweak, and then we can add new layers to the business model, basically.
There's, I think, other components to that too, Daniel. One is, once we are scaling and we have we can't offer a big audience right now to authors. We can't say, oh, get on our platform and you're going to get another 1,000 people viewing your stuff, because we're still in that testing mode. We still have a couple hundred people using it. But that should be a reality in future. And then the other two parts are data. So what people are going to be doing on our platform isn't just rating and reviews. You're not just going to see how many people saw your article or how popular it was, but you should get really deep insight into what they did with it. How did they iterate with it? Oh, they made a gamified action plan. They made a track here. It's been used by all these people in these ways. So I think that's going to be extremely valuable for authors to see what kind of impact they have.
Exactly.
And then the other part, which we haven't really ideated yet, but we know it's probably on the roadmap, I'd say, Jürgen, hopefully I'm safe saying this, is discussions. A lot of people like IC Agile and groups that want to, experiment with tracks for trainings or certification prep, for example. They're like, well, we want a coach to be able to engage with people. We want to see what they're doing with the content that they've provided, and then we want to engage them. So
Exactly.
Have a conversation with them, or they can ask for help, and then you can respond. So there's a lot there, a lot for authors. We think it's going to be extremely valuable. Right now, it's still in, test phase for authors. So.
Yeah, so that's why we have to make it work first for the players, for the users. That it begins and ends with them. So if we can make it work for them, then the obvious next personas to focus on are the content creators. As I keep using myself as an example, I am an author of a lot of content, as you know, but I have absolutely no idea who in the world is using my ideas. Which practices. People have to tell me at conferences, hey, we've used moving motivators, or we've used the celebration grid. Thank you for that. And I'm like, wow, great. I'm so happy to hear that. But I've never heard of you before. So it would be awesome if I had a platform that gave me a notification that says, this person at that company has now used your celebration grid, and they thought it was awesome. then I can reach out to those people and ask them, do you have questions, or do you want more from me, or whatever. So there's lots of opportunities we could create there. And I would see this as a perfect complement to existing training and workshops. We're not trying to build a learning platform, we're basically trying to build a doing platform. So we could take over from the moment that have people finish their 2-day Scrum class or whatever it is that they have done, and then suggest to those facilitators and coaches and consultants, now create a number of tracks for them, some things for them to do in their organizations, so that you can keep following them and keep the conversation going. Because otherwise things just stop after the 2-day class. We all know that problem. So you can give them a number of challenges, some things to do, some badges to earn, gamification around it. Hopefully it will be fun to challenge each other. And then we can see what's happening in the organization. Also the ones who created the content in the first place, which might not necessarily be the facilitator themselves, because they might just be creating a track that consists of content by other authors, but just they do the moderation and the curation basically of stuff on the platform, and say, well, this is the perfect combination for you from these different authors, you should try that. And then both the facilitator and those content creators, they would get the notifications and say, well, these people made progress along these tracks with these practices, maybe you want to help them out. And that's what we want to be building.
Yeah. Okay,
guys, I have one more question. This is also rather hard for me, because I'm thinking how somehow I can use the app and the whole platform, especially for the corporate clients. And there, regarding the corporate environment, they are more interested how this will be aligned not to only team level achievement tracks and values, but to say organizational level metrics. And is it possible somehow, or do you have any plans in the future to somehow connect the data regarding different tools, I don't know, Jira, target process, whatever, that they track both business metrics, they track the personal people metrics like employee satisfaction, NPS, whatever, and how the changes in the tracks that the people are doing, how this influence the organization performance? Do you have any ideas or any plans to do such a things?
Just ideas far down on the backlog. We know these opportunities, but they are not top of mind at this point, because first we want a bottom-up approach, so make it work for individuals and teams first, because basically all other business models, all other solutions are top-down. They are bought by HR, they are bought by the executives, and then rolled out in a top-down fashion. We want something specifically that works bottom-up. So we would also be like the only solution that is really yours, that you take with you. Even when you change to another employer, you still have your data, you still have what you did on the Mindsetters platform, you take it with you. And you just, like with LinkedIn, you just connect to another employer, but everything is still there. And no other solution works like that, because they're all enterprise solutions and they're all islands of information. But when you quit your job, everything is gone and you have to start from scratch on another learning platform at another company. So that's not what we want. So that also means that everything is inverted. We start at the bottom, we have to make it work there. We see all those opportunities, enterprise level metrics and stuff like that, and the things that corporations will want from us in terms of security and everything. Once they would want to pull the credit card for 10,000 people, it's on the back of our mind, but it's not at the front at the moment because of the bottom-up approach. We have plenty of problems to solve at the team level before it even works. And then we can start reaching out to the higher levels in the organization.
Okay, thanks.
Sure thing. I do think, though, that I don't think it can complement a top-down rollout. I've talked with quite a few companies about this, where you've got the agile, project happening Well, imagine you create a
Sure.
content store, you create the best practices
Mhm.
for your organization, and maybe you give people some freedom. You're like, here's the new Scrum thing we're rolling out. Here's 10 options or a bunch of actionable ideas you can play with. Go to
Right.
your teams or your divisions and decide what you want to do. You decide, and then the organization can track. They can see, oh, nobody's doing A, everyone's doing C. Why is
Right.
that? And you could extract the data and then, map who's experimenting against your JIRA numbers. Like, I think it's definitely, we could scale to that, Daniel. I think we could, for sure.
Probably, and then what is on my mind is probably to work on an API like other tools such as Slack and Trello and everyone. They make certain their systems are open so you can plug into it, and then others, creative people can connect things together in smart ways. So we could focus on what we're good at. And I think our main achievement would first be just transparency about what is going on. I talk with corporations all the time, and of course they want to see how the agile transformation is going, what is happening, where, on which teams. Just getting some transparency, some visibility about what practices people have been doing and how they like them and what challenges they set for each other. All of that is not transparent now. It is, of course, people talk about things, but you can't see anything except for JIRA tickets or whatever, and maybe an employee happiness tool that pings people once per week or something. Everything else is hallway conversations. I would like people to be able to see which retrospectives were done on which teams and which planning meetings and what team building exercises and whatnot. If we can get some more transparency there, that would definitely be a great relief, I think, to higher management levels so that they know something is happening in the organization, but would give them a sense of the transformation that is moving forward.
Okay, guys, just one more thing here. I completely agree, and as you know, being in this industry regarding the consultancy in both Agile and Lean, I agree with the bottom-up approach. However, it's being on the battlefield, it's extremely hard to convince large number of people that, hey guys, now join this this app, join this platform, and somehow at some moment in time we will somehow align the data and show the people that are giving the money for the time that we spend for the initiative that we do, that this will bring the value. So I'm just giving you the hint that I'm thinking about from the corporate level that they can simply provide the app, pay for the employees so that they can use the app on different level. It doesn't have to be top-down approach, but giving the employees possibility to use the app so that they don't have to each of them individually pay for the subscription.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with that, Daniel. So thanks for pointing it out. But it begins with the voluntary adoption of the app by people, like also happened with Trello and Slack and similar tools. They are bottom-up approaches. That is how how these tools became popular. They made these tools so good that people wanted to use them, the free version, and then if you want the professional version, the business version, you walk up to your manager and say, hey, can you pull the credit card? Because now all the teams want to use this, and I've actually already been using the free version for half a year, and it's awesome. That is the approach that is our preferred way, because then we have the adoption by the individuals, by the teams, and then they convince the managers, and then if they pull the credit card, it would be available for a whole department or a whole organization, and then everyone can use it from that moment on.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Good questions.
Of course, right now we don't have a freemium. We don't. We do ask people to pay after 30 days.
At this point, yes.
It's in our metrics, and we do that deliberately to see, are we delivering enough value? We want to see that number going up and up. that it's
Yeah.
valuable enough. So, but
Yeah.
freemium is absolutely on
thanks
our
for pointing out, Paula. That is indeed something that is important. We want people to pay now because paying subscribers are the most critical ones, and we need that critical feedback.
But freemium's in the future. We do expect to
but
have.
when things work, we will have the freemium version for sure. We will figure out which features will fit in the freemium, what will be paid, what will be professional. Those are discussions to have later on when we have product market fit. Right now, it would keep it as simple as possible.
Okay, but it also somehow implies that the initial early adopters and the people in the companies will be the people that are already very agile regarding their different practices, movement in different organizations. I don't think that without any freemium model, it would be easy to scale and build the people using the application, any client segment in the corporate level. I think that now we can only target major startups and very agile organizations that they can use the app.
Yep. Right. So, but as I said, we're not scaling now. So freemium is part of scaling. That would be the next stage. Right now, we're not scaling. We're making the app work. And for that, paid version is important. Someone's trying to call me. I'm ignoring them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for those questions, Daniel. That was really good to talk through. And thanks, everyone else has stayed on to listen. So I guess it was interesting. That's good. So, yes, Paul, you're welcome for the update. If you think of any more questions, please ping us. I don't see any more in the chat. Let's see. And
you can always ask on Slack, send an email.
Yes,
you know how to reach us.
If you're in our Slack, please reach out, and I'm going to get that document linked into an email and out to our investor list now, which you're on if you're here. So yeah, have a look through the details and let us know what you think. And thank you for coming. Thanks for your time. Appreciate your support.
Thanks, everyone. Yep, and see you around.
Okay, we'll wrap it up.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.